From everything I can see and find, it's not against any federal rule or law that I know of for the carriers to turn plans non-commissionable, which is why we've seen it in the past. If we do see more and more of states joining this growing wave, pushing back against the carriers, they're going to have to recalibrate. They're going to have to figure out something different for next year. They may have to bring back commissions in certain states. I would expect as this begins to grow, we might start hearing it out of our Congress people, maybe out of state legislatures. All in all, we don't know what this means, but what we do know is this is something that we have not seen in the past. Hey guys, Curt Graham from Elite Insurance Partners. I'm back again for another industry update. Today, what I want to talk about is what we've seen come out of 8 different states in this recent weeks, this annual enrollment period, regarding their unfair marketing practices with Medicare Advantage plans and the carriers. They're specifically referring to turning plans non-commissionable that were normally going to be commissionable, as well as taking plans off of e-enrollment platforms and limiting the ability for agents to enroll members in those plans. From everything I can see and find, it's not against any federal rule or law that I know of for the carriers to turn plans non-commissionable, which is why we've seen it in the past. But it's become a much bigger problem this year, especially in some of the smaller states that have limited membership and limited options. We've seen carriers, smaller regional carriers, have to pull out of those states. And then what we've also seen is carriers taking big steps, turning plans non-commissionable, limiting enrollment options to where effectively you've limited the clients to basically have no options at all in terms of getting helped by an agent. And so the states aren't looking too happy at that, and they're taking action, releasing either cease and desist orders, bulletins, or memorandums about this. I think this wave is growing. We just recently saw 2 more states, and they are larger states, coming into the fray by releasing their own bulletins. Now, all that being said, this is something that doesn't happen overnight. Listen, these carriers have to plan this out for the entire year. And I actually did find a great little graph here from the Kaiser Family Foundation that goes over just how much planning it takes and how long it takes for these carriers to release their different plan benefits. And we're going to notice what the states are saying as well. It starts all the way in January when the notice is released for public comment from CMS. And then the very first Monday in April is the deadline for CMS to publish the annual rate announcement, and that includes the rate book as well as the bid pricing tool that is needed for these plans to come up with how they're going to structure their plans. First Monday of June is the deadline for the insurers to submit their bids to CMS, and then CMS reviews this with the actuaries during the June and July period in order to see if they think the carriers are going to be able to offer that. So the carriers have to get approved by CMS. And then come the end of July, CMS releases Part D national average monthly bids for the Part D, as well as C and D. Part D information is released typically at the end of July. Normally, late September, I think it might have been a little bit later this year, but CMS publishes the list of the approved contracts that are going to be for the upcoming calendar year. And like I said, these plans are made to be offered throughout the entire calendar year. And some of these state departments of insurance are taking issue with, hey, if the plan's got to be offered all year and you bid it for the entire year and you had commission structured in that bid, then why are you pulling commissions right, before the year's even started? And then we've got the annual election period, which is what we're in now. And then the plans start for the following year. Now, what happens is, like I said, the carriers need to calculate their bids, and they use the bid pricing tool that CMS created, and that allows them to come up with their plan benefit packages. These plan benefit packages have the bids that represent certain things, how they're going to cover parts A and B services, administrative cost and profit margin, and then also the actuarial fair value average risk for a beneficiary. So how sick do they think a beneficiary is going to be and why they might end up needing more in that particular area. One thing I do want to point out is the administrative cost and profit margin. This comes up from some of these states. Now, what are the states that we've seen? So far, it's been Delaware, Idaho, Montana, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and Mississippi. Delaware came out of the gates first, and they had the cease and desist order that they put out. What I would say the most strongly worded situation that's been released. Everybody else has kind of followed suit, and now we've kind of got a template that each of them are going over. If we jump into Delaware, this came out on October 28th, and it was in regards to UnitedHealthcare as well as Care Improvement Plus. And they do find some pretty interesting things in here. We're not going to go through the entire thing, but they talk about that UHC is domiciled in Idaho and they're offering plans in the state. But some of the things that they do discuss are that they are advertising and marketing MA plans with or without the involvement of agents. So it is possible for them to market without agents. But one of the things that they did note down here in F and G that I think is pretty interesting is that they willfully retained zero premium plans in the Idaho market, which was designed to attract seniors. They also developed actuarially sound rates intended to market that product. Developing these products and rates which account for commissions, and then charging seniors the rate that includes commissions by discouraging enrollments in those plans overstates the expenses and augments the profits. Okay, so they're talking about those administrative costs that I mentioned here and profit margin. So they're saying, hey, you designed these plans to have commissions involved, and now you're saying they're non-commissionable. What's going on here? That's something that I thought was pretty noteworthy coming out of Idaho. Now we've got Delaware here, and this is where we start to see kind of a form of this letter coming together. And they all do start mentioning the different things that we've been seeing a lot coming out of some of the larger carriers. Okay. They're failing to allow to make enrollment applications readily available or easily accessible in all these formatted, printed, online, through appointed agents. So taking off the ability for agents to do some of the e-applications, discouraging and dissuading producers from marketing and selling these products, modifying or eliminating compensation mid-year. All of this, they're saying they don't like. We see a similar thing coming out of Montana, removing enrollment applications from their website, discouraging agents from selling products, changing or discontinuing compensation mid-year. They're saying what the carriers must do, but it does look like they're all starting to read from the same book. We can come over here to New Hampshire, jump into this one. They talk about fair competition, unfair trade practices by making it difficult for people to enroll in these plans, eliminating producer compensation. Again, that mid-year. And they're saying, except if expressly permitted and filed in approved compensation style. So what they're talking about is actually they were already going to have compensation, and now you're changing it mid-year. Well, that's not cool. Again, North Dakota being one of those states, and they follow the same exact bullet points that we're seeing from all the carriers, not to change compensation mid-year. That's pretty consistent as we go down. Again, making it available and eligible for enrollments in all forms. Not, saying that you can't do this. I mean, one of the things that we fall under as agents is we're not allowed to steer. We're not allowed to push people into these different plans. And they're saying, hey, this type of activity is essentially forcing that. If you don't allow people to enroll using all the different options that are available, and then if you are changing compensation mid-year, that's not good. Again, we see the same thing coming out of Mississippi. This is what I was talking about. Some larger states in terms of overall Medicare Advantage enrollment. joining now on November 19th, Mississippi, following basically the same sort of things about compensation and mid-year changes. And then the most recent one coming out of South Carolina, again, another large Medicare Advantage state overall. And they're saying, hey, let's not obscure or withhold access to enrollment materials, reduce or limit compensation. So what does this all mean? Ultimately, we're not really sure at this time. This isn't something we've seen in the past. It doesn't appear to be federally illegal or, against the rules for these carriers to do this. They've done it for years. Usually it's just not as big of a scale as we are seeing this year. That being said, if we do see more and more of states joining this growing wave, pushing back against the carriers, they're going to have to recalibrate. They're going to have to figure out something different for next year. They may have to bring back commissions in certain states. I'm thinking of Idaho specifically. That is a cease and desist. They talk about going to court and how they're going to make adjustments there. So if we do see state regulators actually suing these carriers and taking them to court and having some injunctions against them, potential fines or penalties, that is something that might change course. And what do I think probably needs to happen is not to build these plans where you're going to have to cut commission because you don't think they're going to be profitable, but build the plans to where the people that are going to enroll in those plans know that they're getting what they want. That means PPO plans, maybe adding back premium in a lot of cases, raising those co-payments and potential deductibles on those plans that have gone down to zero. I think adjusting the plan benefits for the members as opposed to adjusting agent compensation behind the scenes is probably what needs to happen so that they're not just eliminating all the options in the area for agents to help out the members, because frankly, it is hard to run a business if you're not being compensated or if you're not able to enroll people in these plans except via a paper application. How do you do that? It, is very difficult. We did it in the past. We used to mail out paper applications and then the clients would have to sign it and get it mailed back. And then you'd have to fax it into the carrier. Some carriers are saying we don't want, any e-applications or paper applications. And there are actually some carriers that are docking for administrative fees on the paper application side of things. So really discouraging it. All in all, like I said, we don't know what this means, but what we do know is this is something that we have not seen in the past. So I would expect as this begins to grow, we might start hearing it out of our Congress people, maybe out of state legislatures coming in and enacting new specific laws, because remember, insurance is regulated on a state by state basis. But we might see stuff coming out of CMS as well. There is growing pressure at CMS in this regard. I would imagine that these state departments of insurance are releasing these memorandums and bulletins, that they are also pushing on CMS to fix this issue, because I know if you've been in this business and you're around the country, there are some states where when you go to enroll people, there's just not any options available. And you're thinking, am I doing something wrong? No, you're not. There's just nothing available on the e-enrollment platforms for you to enroll that person in. Or maybe there's one plan or one carrier in that area. And if that plan or carrier doesn't offer a plan that covers maybe that client's benefits, then you're very limited in what you can do. And so what they said in some of these letters is they've got complaints from members, they've got complaints from agents and other industry advocates. And as that continues to grow, I would expect more states to join. And right now it's 8. If we get 15 or 20 states in here, I think it's going to be too much for actual action to not take place and these carriers to start adjusting what they're doing as opposed to just adjusting compensation and limiting our ability to enroll people in these plans. Hey guys, if you found this helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, share it with anybody else. If you think I said something wrong in this video and you've got an article that you want to share or some other information about maybe that there's a federal rule on this side, I'd love to see that as well. I've got an email below that you can contact me at. You could also join our private Facebook group. There's a link below for that. Hope everybody's having a great AEP. We've only got a couple more weeks left. One interesting thing I did hear on Humana's most recent earnings call is that about 30% of all enrollments in AEP happen in the last 2 weeks. It is not over yet. 50% of most people's production is going to happen in that last 2 weeks of the year, or 2 weeks of the annual election period. So keep your foot on the gas, keep it going, and close this year out strong so you can have a great holiday. And then we're in open enrollment period, and we're ready to enroll people for the next couple months and keep helping people out all year long. All right, I'll talk to you guys sometime soon.